How far along do you think you would be if you stripped away your pride and your ego? If you didn't allow your pride and your ego to protect you? Listen, your pride and your ego is what's keeping you in a state of trying to appear like you're perfect. It keeps you from revealing your flaws, your weaknesses, your insecurities, and therefore prevents you from fixing them. I know, because that used to be me. Before I became an entrepreneur, before I became an infantry company commander, before I became an infantry platoon leader, before I achieved any success in life, my ego was keeping me unsuccessful. And the more I stripped that away, the more successful I became. Your pride and your ego is stopping you from asking for help. Your pride and your ego is stopping you from confronting your weaknesses. One of my weaknesses early in life as a young adult and adolescent was I struggled with my intelligence. I thought I wasn't smart. I would take these tests at school and I would completely fail them. And I developed this limiting belief that I was just dumb. The other kids would come to school and they would brag about how little they studied and they would ace it. And I was over here not studying, expecting I should get the same result. Well, guess what? That was a lie. I wasn't dumb. I wasn't unintelligent. I just was not doing the study habits to get the grades, to pass the test. And you know what else? I hid that insecurity. The insecurity that I was dumb and I wasn't intelligent. And I didn't tell anybody. And so I sat there and I just pretended to be something I wasn't. I would show up to class. You know, I would do my homework. I would go home, and when test time came, man, my whole face would turn flush. I would get anxiety. The fear of failure would swarm me. I remember the pressure being so great I could barely even remember how to spell my own name. Now that's an exaggeration, but you get it. What I'm saying here is that my pride and ego kept me from announcing the fact that I was struggling deep down inside. And then one day, enough became enough. I realized that I wasn't getting the results that I wanted in life. I had made some progress in my military career. I'd become an infantry officer, but I still wasn't in the books of studying. And when I tried to buy my first home, the banks told me no, they wouldn't lend me the money. And when that failure hit, I realized that I was doing something wrong. And so I put my pride and ego aside. I started studying successful people. And I realized that I had an issue. That I wasn't doing what these successful people did. These successful people were reading voraciously every single day. And I realized I had to confront my resistance. I had to confront my insecurity of being dumb. And I needed to get into the books. And little by little, I started improving on that area of my life. And you know what happened? By facing my resistance and my fears of being dumb and not being able to read and not being able to understand, I went from never reading a book in my entire life until my mid-20s, early 20s, to reading 42 books in 52 weeks in that year. And then when that started to happen, my finances started to change. My track in life started to change. 18 months later, I bought my first house. I sold that house and profited $80,000. I held that house for about 2 years. Sold it, made 80 grand. That was more money than I was making in a year at that point in time. But it all started by stripping away my pride and my ego and confronting my weaknesses head on. You see, your pride and your ego likes to convince you that you're perfect. It likes to convince you that you don't have any issues. It likes to convince you, it's like this invisible wall that when you walk up to and you want to get to the other side of reading the books, passing the tests, making the money, that invisible wall slaps you in the face and it makes you go back the other way. Your pride and ego is keeping you where you're at. And if you would just simply strip it away, you could break free. Conquer all.